This is Andy Gutierrez from StarWars.com, and you are listening to Coffee with Kenobi with Dan Z. This is the podcast you're looking for.
This is James Arnold Taylor, and you're listening to Coffee with Kenobi. I have a good feeling about this.
Well, hey everybody, welcome to CWK Live on Monday nights at 7 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time. I'm your host, Dan Zehr, delighted to talk Star Wars with each and every one of you. Let's bring in our friends. Again, I am Dan Zehr, so happy to be with you. Took some time off, on vacation with my wife, and we had the best time. Now we're back in the studio, ready to have some fun talking Star Wars with you amazing people. Minta, this is the way. It's CWK Day. Hello, Minta. Great to see you. Merry happy Monday to you. Robert, happy Monday, CWK gang. Good to see you, Robert. And Brian says, this is the Monday. So I've changed my camera. I'm always fidgeting and moving things around. I changed my camera so it's a little bit higher. So for me to look at you, I got to look up like this. So for me to look at my comments, I got to look like this or this. So I apologize if my eyes are all over the place. It's just part of the fun of producing this happy little podcast and live video, which of course we do weekly. In addition to the live show, we have Coffee with Kenobi, the actual podcast itself. Speaking of that, I just dropped the brand new episode, about 20 minutes ago. And it was a good one. It was James Burns. And for his first ever appearance on Coffee with Kenobi, Daz Davies joined me, and we talked about the 4th episode of The Acolyte today. I did not get a chance to review the episode yet because, again, I was on vacation, so I was happy to get that one out to you. But it wasn't, look at this. Nick is here. He says, welcome back, Dan. Nick, great to see you, my friend. Even though I wasn't able to get to day on my normal schedule, I still gave you 2 shows. We got Tessa Gratton talking about Temptation of the Force, the brand new High Republic novel. It was spoiler free, so if you haven't read the book or just kind of working your way through it, completely safe to listen to. It is spoiler free. And then Clayton Sandell joined me to talk about the Return of the Jedi visual guide, which with St. Benday, and that was great fun too. I've got some more fun podcasts coming your way that aren't just about reviewing The Acolyte. They're about a lot of things. Looking forward to that. Mary says, yay, Daz Davies. I know, so good. Mita says, I'm having some connection problems, so it might cut me out quite a bit. All right, Mita, well, hopefully that works out. If not, you can always, of course, catch the show later on YouTube or Facebook, and then you can watch, or you can certainly listen to the podcast anytime you want. We're actually going to skip what's brewing in the world of Star Wars this week and jump right into your top 5. All right, Minta is here on her YouTube account. Great, Minta. Hey, that works. That is awesome. So, as promised, we're going to talk about Destiny and Day, the 3rd and 4th episodes of The Acolyte. I want you to get your top 5 list ready and share those with me here on the program this evening. We combine them because, as we mentioned, we weren't able to do the live show last week because we had had a vacation, but we're ready to combine these two, and there are certainly plenty to talk about. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into number 5 of these 2 episodes. Number 5 for me, I put Flashback. It was pretty cool to see in the 3rd episode called Destiny. The whole thing is a flashback. The entire thing. That's pretty rare in Star Wars to have an entire episode completely about a flashback and not just something that jumps around a little bit. And it was really fun to get that difference in storytelling. Now, I guess if you want to be technical about it, the original New Hope is a flashback, kind of, right? Now, when it first came out, that is not the case. But en media res is the Latin term for when you start a story in the middle of the story, and then you talk about it, share some key beats, get the characters and the reader kind of interested, or I should say like intertwine with one another, so you get to know more about the characters. And then there's a flashback which tells you what you've missed. And that's what A New Hope, Jedi, Empire, and Jedi do, because then you go back to episodes 1, 2, and 3. So it's kind of a fun way to look at it if you want to look at it that way. But this was a flashback. I've heard people say, hey, this could have been the first episode of the season. Yeah, I suppose that's true. But it was told this way, and I thought it was cool. It was a fun little surprise. I remember watching the first time saying, oh, a flashback. Let's go. Number 5 for Mita, Origin of the Witches. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty certain this is the origin of the Night Sisters. You know, I don't know if they are the Night Sisters or if it's kind of like a different like sect of people who use the Force like magic as witches do. So that's a good question. We'll find out, I guess. Number 5 for Robert is Basil, just pure and simple Basil. And Basil seems like he's become a fan favorite right away. Brian's number 5, the Ascension Ceremony for the twins. Oh, yeah. A lot of powerful stuff there. Very interesting, almost like some religious overtones, I think, which James and I talked about last week on the show. Next, number 5, attention to detail. The Witch Coven and Mother Anastasia, and especially the costumes. The costumes are gorgeous. They really have done a lot with that. Number 5 for Mary, if you want to pull the thread, then pull it. It seems as if Osha's mother wants to support her decisions. I agree. It's really challenging as a parent to let your kids make their own choices and have them branch off like that. And it was pretty neat and brave to see that. Burnt Waffles here. Sorry I'm late. No, do not be sorry. We're so happy to have you. Welcome back to the live show, my friend. All right. I don't think anybody else has got a top number 5. If so, please jump in and do it. And as I say every week, if you're not able to join us live, I completely understand. There's a lot going on, and you got busy families and lives and jobs and vacations and all kinds of things. But if you ever want to post your top 5 later, you can certainly post it in the CWK Cafe, our exclusive, well, not exclusive, but you know, it's a Facebook group. It's the only Coffee with Kenobi one, and that's where you can post all your stuff. All right, let's go to number 4. Number 4, I put Forced Conversation. Excuse me. We learned some different ways of looking at the Force through the Witch Coven, and they think of the Force in a different way. We see, which we have seen before in Star Wars, that the Jedi aren't the only ones who use the Force or tap into it, and other cultures and other planets and peoples refer to the Force differently. You know, Zebarilios' people, the Lasans, they have a different term for the Force. They talk about the Force differently in the Mortis trilogy. The oh my gosh, Asajj Ventress's people, right? They talk about the Force differently. Everybody, there are a lot, I shouldn't say everybody, but a lot of different species talk about the Force differently. So this is not a new idea, but we did learn some new things about how the Force works, how people tap into the Force, and how they perceive and view it. And that became a very hot debate topic about the Jedi's version of the Force versus the Coven's version of the Force. And I love it. I love that conversation. I love just the critical thinking that goes into, you know, the Jedi's point of view, and is it right for them to jump in and say they want to test these children? And there's a lot of cool stuff there. So always excited to learn more and to think about things differently. Mary's number 4, the hustle and bustle of the Jedi Temple on Coruscant before they leave to retrieve Kelnaka. It makes Star Wars come to life, doesn't it, when you get to see more parts of things like that, and just adding some more characters even in the background makes the story come to life. So good call, Mary. Number 4 for Brian. He says, in Destiny, learning more about Soul's deep connection to Osha. Jedi, let me see, I think I lost it here. Oh, here we go. Jedi aren't supposed to have attachments, but every episode seems to make Soul's connection to Osha greater and greater. Yes, it does. Mita's number 4. The way how May and Osha want to take different paths. It's a lot to take in. You have one that wants to be a Jedi. The other wants to follow the way of the witch. And it's tearing them apart. It's true. It's not easy, is it? Robert's number 4. We're not defined by what we lose. We're defined by what we survive. Jackie to Osha. Actually, Robert, I talk about that quote a lot in Coffee with Kenobi this week. It looks like I might have had a different take on it to you, but hard to say. But when you listen to it, let me know what you think. Number 4 for Nick, the beautiful scenery and landscape. I love how Star Wars takes you to new worlds. I'm nodding my head, which is not really historically good for a podcast, so I apologize. But yes, I completely concur with your assessment, my friend. The different landscapes and worlds are fascinating. And well done, especially here. These are practical sets, and of course there is some CGI naturally. But they try to stick to models and practical sets as much as they could for the production of this, which Leslie Headland talked about on Coffee with Kenobi. And that's cool. That's really cool. It adds kind of a little bit of verisimilitude to the entire thing. All right, let's go to number 3. Number 3, I put the music. Look, I've said this before, but the music in The Acolyte is just amazing. It's haunting. It's beautiful. It's elegant. It creates a very serious atmosphere that is powerful and effective and really adds to the ambiance of these characters. It adds so much to the story. In fact, I think I enjoy the story significantly more because of the music and the atmosphere it creates than maybe on other things. It really stands out to me more than anything. Minta's 3 different perspectives of the Force. It's refreshing to see it from a different view, so there's a chance in future Star Wars lore that we can see other versions of it as well. I agree, and I think that's really exciting, honestly, to get the idea that there are other perspectives to learn about. Robert's 3, Ki-Adi-Mundi's appearance. Very, very cool. Much younger Ki-Adi-Mundi. And I was excited to see that because, it's in that era, that prequel era. 3 for Brian, the Master descending like a spider behind the Jedi soul was the first one to sense it. Brian, I'll be talking about that a little bit later. That is pretty epic stuff. Number 3 for Mary. Osha is saying she's not going to wear the civilian robe. And then the next shot is her sitting on the ship in the civilian robe. That was funny. Yord calling her civilian echoes back to Windu calling Ahsoka civilian. Oh, yeah. That's right. That's right. Good catch. Very good catch. Number 3 for Nick. I carried them. I created them. Dialogue between Mother Anastasia and Mother Corey. So deep. That is an interesting mythological twist on a familiar archetype in different stories and presented through different cultures. So I'm glad that is something that stood out to you. Okay, let's see here. Next one we have for people. Again, if you want to add one later, that sounds great. I'm going to go ahead and jump to number 2. The Master's appearance. Brian has talked about this a little bit ago, but when the Master shows up and he levitates down, it's interesting, kind of perfect. Yesterday, I showed my son the original Batman from 1989 with Michael Keaton and Jack Nicholson, which is so great. And I liked it even more. Well, I don't know if I liked it more. I was pretty obsessed with it when it first came out years ago. 35 years ago, in fact, which is crazy. But the scene, there's a few scenes where Batman just kind of floats down. It's so haunting and so cool. And for criminals, it's scary. But that's kind of a big part of the Batman lore. In this, when the Master shows up and lowers down, that combined with his helmet is really haunting. Really, really scary. And again, adds with that, plus combined with the music, makes it feel like a horror film. And it is so cool. So cool. Let's see. Mary's number 2. Basil, love a new cute creature. Can you imagine all the people are going to be cosplaying as Basil? That's going to be fun. Minta's number 2. Ki-Adi-Mundi, that blew my mind as he was there during the High Republic era. Maybe we'll see Yoda as well. I hope so. That would be awesome. All right, number 2 for Robert. The makeup and prosthetics, especially Mother Corey's. So again, the makeup, the costuming, just absolutely terrific. Nick says, I can't think of Batman without thinking of the Diet Coke commercial they played on the original VHS. Oh, yeah. Good call, Nick. Good flashback. Number 2 for Brian, the conversation between Osha and Sol. For leaving to retrieve Kelnaka, there is still good in her. That was cool to see because how could you not think of Star Wars and Vader and Luke talking about Vader? There is still good in him, but in this one, it's still good in her. Talking about Osha. I like that too, Brian. Number 2 for Nick, the Master descending from the trees. A lot of us have talked about that already. It might be part of your number 1s. Undoubtedly, if you're listening to this and you watched this episode, you thought that was pretty cool. I mean, it was visually, it's stunning and very haunting. We haven't seen a character that's evil make an appearance like that I can remember that wields the dark side of the Force. Usually they just kind of show up or jump out and scare you, but they don't descend down. Pretty nuts. Number 2 for Burnt Waffle, seeing Soul treat Osha like a daughter, which was very nice. I like that too. But now, let's go to number 1. From Destiny and Day, episodes 3 and 4 of The Acolyte. My number 1 is the cliffhanger. Are you kidding? At the end of this thing, when the Master appears and gets in Osha's face and turns on the red lightsaber, and Soul screams out for Osha to run. All 8 Jedi, I think it's 8, turn on their lightsabers and run an attack, and they are force pushed with the dust and debris pushing them, as well as all the Jedi flying because of the power of the Master. And then it just ends and there's no music. I have goosebumps. That is a great cliffhanger. How could you not get excited about that? That was awesome. That was awesome. Let's see. Number 1 for Mary, Soul telling Osha will explain everything after they get back to the ship. I certainly hope we get to hear that conversation. I'm sure that we will. I hope that we will too. Number 1 for Brian, the red blade ignites. The Master flicks Osha away easily. That's true. A rainbow of lightsabers ignite, fade to black. Brian, that's well said, man. Well said. I mean, to the debut of the Master gave me chills. He gives me Kylo Ren vibes because of the attire, which makes me believe that where Kylo got the inspiration. Curse the cliffhanger. That's so funny. And we only have to wait like 24 hours. A little over 24 hours to find out what's going to happen. Mean to May making the decision to give up the dark side in favor of being with her sister. You don't see that too often in Star Wars stories, admitting faults and reconciliation. I agree. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more out of that, but I talk about that a lot on Coffee with Kenobi this week, so I won't spoil it here. But I know what you're saying. Since you saw episode 4 before the rest of us, you need to wait longer to find out what happens next. I know, exactly. And I kind of love that, Robert, to be honest, because I like the waiting. I like the anticipation. I'm very excited about seeing part 5. Robert's number 1, the blue and red moons on Brendok. Oh my gosh. I've watched this a couple times. I didn't even think of that. Good catch. Burnt Waffles number 1, May's Master being able to use the Force and easily pushing all the Jedi away. Also, the cliffhanger was great. It was totally epic. It was so cool. So cool. Well, thank you, everybody. I've been very excited to talk about these 2 episodes with all of you. Next week, of course, back at our normal day and time, Monday, 7 o'clock, we're going to go back to The Acolyte. We're going to talk about episode 5, again, which we just talked about, being very excited to see what happens with this cliffhanger. There's so much unknown, and I have not seen episode 5. So I'm looking forward to it very much too. But now, let's go ahead and jump into Ask Dan Z. So catch me up on how everybody is doing. I have not yet seen Inside Out 2. I'm very much looking forward to that. Speaking of pop culture, this week on CWK Pour-Over, we talk about Godzilla -1. Finally, I'd seen the movie in theaters, and Corey and Tom had not, but I kept saying, you guys got to see this. So here is a clip of us talking about Godzilla -1 on CWK Pour-Over this week.
It's so much more than that. You got to see it when it comes out. You got to see it. I'm like, okay, yeah. Well, that was off the radar, right? Time passed. Dan, I get a text from Dan saying he's raving over this movie. I was like, what is happening?
The visual of the Godzilla was pretty horrific and frightening. Those big spines on his back, and he looked really frightening. And then that weird phenomenon where that blue like power, the lightning builds up and his scales pop out or his spine pops out. I was like, that is so cool. But
there's just one scene I think is the best scene. The best scene. And it's when they're in the boat and he pops up out of the water and he's just following them as close as can be. And you can just see the little bit of his spine and just the top of his head. I have goosebumps.
Yeah.
And even like I've seen it twice now. Even when I knew what was going to happen, it was
Yeah.
so incredibly suspenseful, and you're worried to death. And the way that he follows them, and just it just looks so visually beautiful. And I remember thinking, this is absolutely stunning. Yeah, so no secret there that I love Godzilla Minus One. We break it down in a lot of detail, Coffee with Kenobi style. And that's kind of the beautiful thing about CWK Pour-Over is if you are a member of the CWK Alliance, you are, for one thing, as a member of the CWK Alliance, this show is possible. Like, I can't do Coffee with Kenobi without the CWK Alliance. Your support means a lot, but I don't just... I want it to be something where I can give back to you as well. Since you give back to me with your generous contributions, I give you CWK Pour-Over, which is, again, our weekly exclusive show that we talk about all the time. It's hosted by me, Corey Clubb, and Tom Gross. And there's a video portion of the podcast as well as the regular podcast itself. And once you're a member of the CWK Alliance, you can listen to Pour-Over on Spotify, which I think is really, really cool. So, plus 10% of your monthly contributions go directly to the St. Jude Children's Hospital, and that is the thing I'm the most proud of. Minta wants to know, how excited am I for the Deadpool Wolverine movie? I'm really excited about it. Much more than I expected to be, because, well, I don't know if there's a because, but I watched the second one for the first time a couple of weeks ago. I'd never seen it. I rewatched the first one. I was kind of lukewarm to it the first time, but I really liked it more this time, and I love the second one. So I'm excited. Plus, who doesn't love Hugh Jackman as Wolverine? He's perfection. So I'm excited. I'm excited, Mita. Mary says that Godzilla Minus One is such a good movie. Yes, I'm glad you liked it. Robert saw it over the weekend. It was great. Yes, it's just phenomenal. Brian says, my wife and I got to go to the swimming Olympics trials here in Indy. Can't wait for watching them in about a month. Brian, that's cool. What a great thing. Is it as good as the recent Godzilla movies when he teams up with King Kong? Nick, it is so, and I can't overstate this, it is so much better than Godzilla and King Kong. And I like those movies. They're cool. But Godzilla Minus One says a lot of important things. It's the special effects won the Oscar. It's great. And this is the only kaiju movie I've seen where I cared as much or more about the people. More than I did the monster. That's huge. You got to see it, Nick. You will love it. All right. Well, speaking of love, I love talking to each of you every week. This is a bit of a short show, but hopefully it got your Coffee with Kenobi Star Wars fix in. Minta says, I remember seeing Hugh Jackman in concert 5 years ago. I'm incredibly excited to see him in the new movie. Minta, I remember that. I really wanted to go see him too because I love The Greatest Showman. It's such a great movie, and he's such an incredible talent. So yes, I'm very excited about that. Very excited to talk with you all next week about the new episode of The Acolyte. And again, you don't just do it once a week. We've got Coffee. It's going to be multiple times on the podcast feed. Anywhere you listen to your podcast, you can certainly become a member of the CWK Alliance and support me in the show. There's another way to enjoy Coffee with Kenobi, and that is to go on the Disney Wish with all of us next summer, June 16th to the 20th. 2025 on the Disney Wish. Go to coffeewithkenobi.com/DisneyWish and join me and our friends at Mouse Fan Travel for this incredible opportunity to go and experience the Wish, the Hyperspace Lounge, all that good stuff. Hugh Jackman's going to be in a Godzilla movie? No, no. That is Minto was talking about the Deadpool Wolverine movie. But Robert, I'd be here for that, man. Brian says, thanks, Dan. Great way to start the week. Thank you, Brian. Thanks for joining me. And Minta, may the force be with you. Thanks for persevering. Even though there's some crazy things going on with your feed, you're able to join us on YouTube, and I appreciate that. You can listen to the show watch the show live on YouTube, on X, and on, of course, Facebook Live. Thanks again so much, everybody. Great to spend time with you. So great to be back. May the stars light your way. Keep on turning the page. Keep pushing play. Keep learning. And remember, this is the podcast you're looking for. See you next time.
This podcast is not endorsed by the Walt Disney Company or Lucasfilm Limited. It is intended for entertainment and informational purposes only. The official Star Wars website can be found at www.starwars.com. Star Wars, all names, sounds, and any other Star Wars related items are registered trademarks and or copyrights of Disney and their respective trademark and copyright holders. All original content of this podcast is the intellectual property of Coffee with Kenobi unless otherwise indicated.
This is the podcast you're looking for.
There's no one here. Move along. Move along.